I want to tell you about the day my wife handed me divorce papers at her medical school graduation. My name is Drew Harris, and I'm 33 years old. I'd worked 2 jobs for 4 years to pay her tuition. $70,000 outright. Another $40,000 in loans I took out in my name. I deferred promotions, worked myself into the ground, sacrificed everything so Angelica could become a doctor. And she thanked me by having her lawyer serve me in the parking lot while she drove off with Dr. Nicholas Whitlock, the attending physician she'd been screwing for 6 months. Standing there with those papers in my hand, something inside me turned to ice, that cold, clarifying rage that tells you exactly who someone really is. 3 years later, she came back, broke, disgraced, license revoked, begging for help she'd never receive. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you gave everything to, you know that feeling. This is what happened when she reaped what she sowed. But let me start from the beginning. Before I go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow I will share a story you don't want to miss. I stood in the parking lot of the medical school auditorium, holding a bouquet of roses I'd spent too much money on, when a woman in a gray suit approached me. "Drew Harris?" she asked. "That's me." She handed me a manila envelope. "You've been served." I opened it right there, my hands starting to shake as I read the words. Petition for dissolution of marriage, filed by Angelica Morgan Harris, my wife of 6 years, the woman who was inside that building right now, receiving her medical degree, the degree I'd worked myself into the ground to pay for. The roses felt heavy in my other hand. I'd picked them up this morning, imagining her face when I gave them to her after the ceremony. Red roses, her favorite. $60 I couldn't really afford. I didn't leave. I didn't retreat. I walked straight into that auditorium and found her in the crowd of celebrating graduates, her parents beside her, champagne glasses in hand. "Angelica," I said, my voice cutting through the congratulations around us. She turned, and I saw it immediately. The guilt, yes, but also the steel. She'd made her choice, and she was committed. "Drew, this isn't the time. You had me served in the parking lot?" I held up the papers. "On your graduation day? The graduation I paid for?" Her father, Gerald Morgan, stepped forward. "Now, son, let's not make a scene. Don't you dare call me son." I didn't take my eyes off Angelica. 4 years, 2 jobs. I deferred my own career, worked 60-hour weeks, ate ramen while you had meal plans. And this is how you repay me? "Drew, I've changed," she said, her voice maddeningly calm. "Medical school changed me. I need someone who's at my level now." "Your level?" I laughed, harsh and bitter. "I put you at that level. Without me, you'd still be waiting tables with an undergrad degree in biology." "That's exactly what I mean," she snapped, her composure cracking. "You think I owe you something. You think you own me because you helped with expenses." "Helped?" My voice rose. "I paid $70,000 in tuition alone. I'm $40,000 in debt from the loans I took out for your final year. I sacrificed everything, and I'm grateful," she said, but her eyes were cold. "But gratitude isn't love, Drew, and I deserve to be with someone who's my equal, someone who challenges me intellectually, someone like—" She stopped herself, but not before I saw her glance toward a man in a white coat standing near the refreshment table. "Someone like your attending physician?" I asked quietly. "Dr. Nicholas Whitlock?" "Yeah, Angelica. I'm not stupid. You think I didn't notice you coming home at 2 a.m. smelling like cologne? The way you password protected your phone 6 months ago?" Her face went pale, but then she lifted her chin. "I want a divorce, Drew. I've already filed. My lawyer will be in touch about the settlement." "Settlement?" I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. "Oh, we'll definitely be talking about a settlement. See, California is a community property state. And all those loans I took out during our marriage? All that income I earned while you were in school? That's community property. Which means your future earnings, all those doctor paychecks you're looking forward to, they're partly mine. That's not— And another thing, I continued, my voice deadly calm. Adultery might not matter much in divorce court anymore, but it sure as hell matters for spousal support. You think you're going to walk away from this marriage with a clean slate and a doctor's salary while I'm buried in debt? Think again. Nicholas Whitlock started moving toward us, and I held up a hand. Stay right there, doctor. Unless you want everyone here to know you've been sleeping with a married woman who's still on her husband's insurance. He stopped. Diane Morgan grabbed her daughter's arm. Angelica, let's go. We don't need to listen to this. That's right. Run, I said. But you can't run from this marriage. Not legally. Not without consequences. I'll see you in court, Angelica. And, trust me, you're going to regret the day you handed me those papers. I dropped the roses on the floor at her feet and walked out. The next morning, I sat across from Marianne Clarkson in her downtown office, a folder thick with documents on the desk between us. She was in her mid-50s, sharp-eyed, with the kind of professional composure that came from winning cases other lawyers wouldn't touch. Tell me everything, she said, pen poised over a legal pad. I did. Every detail. The timeline of our relationship. How we'd met in college, married young, dreamed together. How Angelica had decided on medical school 3 years into our marriage, and I'd supported that dream without question. How I'd worked as a project engineer during the day and picked up freelance CAD work at night, sometimes pulling 16-hour days just to keep us afloat. I spread the financial records across her desk. Bank statements showing tuition payments, receipts for her MCAT prep course, $1,200, application fees to 15 different medical schools, nearly $2,000 total. The first 2 years of tuition I'd paid outright, draining our savings and my retirement account. Year 3 is when I had to start taking loans, I explained, sliding those documents forward. $20,000 that year. Another 20 the final year. All in my name because her credit was shot from undergrad loans she'd defaulted on. Marianne made notes, her expression unreadable. Then I pulled out my phone and opened the cloud backup files. These are text messages I recovered from old backups. She got sloppy about 6 months before graduation, started deleting conversations, but didn't realize I had automatic backups running. I showed her the messages. Angelica and Nicholas, starting 7 months before that parking lot ambush. Flirty at first, then explicit. Plans to meet at his apartment. Complaints about me. How I didn't understand her world. How I was holding her back. How she deserved better. Marianne read through them, and when she looked up, something like satisfaction gleamed in her eyes. Mr. Harris, your wife made a critical mistake. Which one? I asked. There seemed to be several. Filing immediately after graduation. See, in California, we have something called reimbursement claims. When one spouse supports another through education with the expectation that both will benefit from increased earnings, and then the educated spouse bails immediately, the supporting spouse can claim reimbursement. English, please? She leaned forward. You're entitled to repayment for the financial contributions you made to her education. Not all of it, but a substantial portion. We can argue for direct costs, tuition, fees, exam prep. Plus, given that she committed adultery during the marriage and you can prove it, we can argue against any spousal support claims from her. More importantly, we can argue for you to receive temporary support given your debt burden. I sat back, processing. She's going to fight this. Of course she is. She thinks she's getting a fresh start with her new doctor salary. But here's what she doesn't understand yet. A resident's salary is only about $60,000 a year. For the next 3 years, she's going to be making barely more than you do now. And she's on the hook for compensating you while living in one of the most expensive cities in the country. What's our first move? We file a response that makes her attorney understand this isn't going to be the clean break she's expecting. We counterclaim for reimbursement, property division in your favor, and temporary spousal support. Then we subpoena her phone records to lock down the affair timeline. If we can prove it started before graduation, it strengthens everything. Shows premeditation, shows she was already planning her exit while you were still paying her bills. I felt something shift in my chest. Not quite relief, but something close. When do we start? I'll have the paperwork ready by end of week. In the meantime, I need you to document everything else you can remember. Every sacrifice you made, every opportunity you passed up. If you turned down a promotion because she needed to stay near her school, I want to know about it. If you worked holidays while she studied, write it down. We're going to paint a very clear picture of exactly what you gave up and what she owes you. I nodded. She told me yesterday I wasn't her equal, that she needed someone who challenged her intellectually. Then let's challenge her, Marianne said, her smile cold and professional. Let's challenge her to explain to a judge why she deserves to walk away with a medical degree and a clean slate, while you're $40,000 in debt for her education. I left that office feeling something I hadn't felt since standing in that parking lot. Control. I walked to my car with Marianne's final words echoing in my head. Your wife is about to learn exactly what her choices cost. And I smiled. Grim, yes, but genuine. 3 weeks after that graduation confrontation, Marianne and I walked into a downtown conference room where Thomas Sanders and Angelica were already waiting. Angelica looked different. Tired. Her confidence from graduation day had cracked. I could see it in the way she sat, shoulders hunched, hands clasped tight on the table. Her makeup didn't quite hide the circles under her eyes. Nicholas wasn't there. Interesting. Thomas opened his leather folder with practiced efficiency. Thank you both for coming. I think we can reach an amicable resolution today. Dr. Harris is willing to assume all debts incurred during the marriage in exchange for a clean break. No spousal support from either party. Marianne didn't even blink. Counteroffer. Dr. Harris repays Mr. Harris $60,000 for direct educational expenses, split over 3 years. Mr. Harris keeps the car and the savings account. Dr. Harris assumes her student loans. No spousal support from either party. Thomas's professional mask slipped. That's ridiculous. My client doesn't have $60,000. Then she can make payments, Marianne said smoothly. $20,000 a year. She'll be earning a salary. Angelica leaned forward, and I saw desperation flash across her face. Drew, please, be reasonable. I don't have that kind of money. You had it when you needed medical school paid for, I said, my voice ice cold. You had it when you needed textbooks, housing deposits, exam fees. Where was your concern about money then? I thought you did that because you loved me. Her voice cracked. I did love you. The words came out flat, emotionless. And you thanked me by fucking your supervisor and dumping me the first chance you got. Don't talk to my client like that, Thomas warned. Marianne's voice cut through the tension like a scalpel. Then tell your client to come up with a better offer. Because if we go to court, we're asking for reimbursement, property division, and temporary spousal support for Mr. Harris. We have documentation of the affair, we have financial records, and we have a judge who's not going to look kindly on a spouse who bailed the moment she got her degree. Angelica's composure shattered. This isn't fair. I leaned across the table, and she flinched. Good. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Fair was me working double shifts while you studied. Fair was me giving up a promotion because it required relocation, and you needed to stay near your school. Fair was me believing you when you said we were building a life together. You made your choice, Angelica. Now, live with it. Thomas tried to regroup. My client is willing to negotiate, but $60,000 is simply non-negotiable. Marianne said. Your client spent 4 years benefiting from my client's sacrifice. She can spend 3 years paying him back. The meeting lasted another 20 minutes, but it was just posturing. Thomas knew it. Angelica knew it. I sure as hell knew it. When we finally left, Angelica looked smaller somehow. Defeated. Outside the conference room, Marianne turned to me. That went exactly as I wanted. No agreement isn't what you wanted. Let them sweat, she said, a slight smile playing at her lips. Let her start her residency. Start seeing those paychecks. Start realizing how little money she actually has after taxes and rent in San Francisco. Let her realize this debt isn't going away. She'll come back with a better offer. They always do. I believed her. Over the next 6 months, I watched Marianne's prediction come true. Thomas called twice more with incrementally better offers, $30,000, then $45,000. Marianne held firm. Meanwhile, I did something I hadn't done in 4 years. I invested in myself. I accepted the promotion to project manager I'd been putting off. Better hours, better pay, and most importantly, I was building my own future again instead of funding someone else's dreams. And I met Riley Jensen at a coffee shop near my office. Graphic designer, easy smile. And when I told her I was going through a divorce, she just nodded and said, "Take your time. Maybe, just maybe." Things were starting to look up. 10 months after that parking lot ambush, I was at my desk when my phone buzzed. Marianne Clarkson's name lit up the screen. "She's caving," Marianne said without preamble. I sat back, pen still in hand. "Tell me." $45,000, paid over 3 years. She assumes all marital debt. You keep the car and the savings. No spousal support from either party. I did the math in my head. $15,000 a year. It wasn't the 60 I'd wanted, but it would wipe out most of my loans. And more than the money? It was Angelica paying me, acknowledging what she owed. "There's one condition," I said. "What's that?" "I want her to sign a statement, in writing, acknowledging that I financially supported her through medical school and that these payments are reimbursement for that support." Marianne paused. "We don't legally need that for the agreement to hold." "I know, but I want it anyway. I want her to admit what happened on paper. I want her to sign her name under the truth." "I'll make it happen," Marianne said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. 2 weeks later, I sat in Marianne's office and signed my name on the divorce papers. Angelica's signature was already there, neat and precise, like always. And underneath, in a single paragraph, I acknowledged that Drew Harris provided substantial financial support during my medical education, and that I am voluntarily reimbursing him for those contributions. I stared at those words longer than I needed to. Then I signed. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday. Our anniversary would have been that Friday. The next 2 years were the best of my life. Riley moved in after we'd been dating for a year. She brought color to my apartment. Art on the walls, plants on the windowsills, laughter in rooms that had been silent too long. We traveled on weekends, short trips I'd never been able to afford before. We talked about the future like it was something we were building together, not something I was funding alone. When the first payment arrived, $15,000 right on schedule, I transferred it to my loan account that same day. The highest interest debt vanished. I logged out and just sat there, feeling lighter than I had in years. Riley noticed. We were making dinner that night when she said, "You're different than when we met." "Different how?" "Lighter. Like you're not carrying something heavy anymore." I thought about it while I chopped vegetables. "I'm not carrying someone else's dreams," I said finally. "Just my own." Turns out, that's a lot easier. I heard about Angelica through Gabriel, my buddy from college. He called one night, hesitant, asking if I'd heard. "Heard what?" "About Angelica and that doctor she left you for. Nicholas, whatever his name was." "What about them?" "They lasted like 8 months. Turns out he was sleeping with half the residents at the hospital. She found out. lost it, and he moved on to the next one. Word is she's been pulling crazy hours ever since. Like 70, 80-hour weeks. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not pity. Just a strange blankness where she used to be. Good to know, I said. After I hung up, Riley asked if I was okay. Yeah, I said and meant it. She's just someone I used to know. 15 months later, the second payment arrived. Another $15,000. My loans were nearly gone now. Just a small balance I could pay off whenever I wanted. We were at dinner when Riley brought up houses. I've been looking at listings, she said. 3 bedrooms, maybe. One for us, one for an office, and one for, eventually. Kids, I said. Yeah, kids. Someday. Not tomorrow, but someday. She reached across the table and took my hand. What do you think? I looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman who'd been patient when I was broken, who'd never asked me to be anything except myself, who wanted to build something with me instead of off me. I think that sounds perfect, I said. That night, lying in bed, I realized something. I'd stopped thinking about Angelica entirely. She wasn't a wound anymore. She wasn't even a scar. She was just nothing. A closed chapter in a book I'd finished reading. I'd moved on. Completely. Finally. My phone rang 2 days later while I was at work. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Drew Harris, a woman's voice, professional and clipped. Speaking. This is Investigator Jennifer Caldwell from the California Medical Board. My stomach dropped. This is Investigator Clark Roberts from the California Medical Board. I'm calling regarding Dr. Angelica Morgan. I understand you were married to her? My stomach tightened. Medical Board? Investigation. Those weren't words you heard unless something serious had gone wrong. We're divorced, I said carefully. What's this about? I'm not at liberty to discuss details, but there's an ongoing investigation into Dr. Morgan's conduct at San Francisco General Hospital. Your name appeared in some of her personal records as her emergency contact. That information clearly hasn't been updated. I'm simply verifying that you're no longer married and therefore not responsible for her legal obligations. We've been divorced for over 2 years, I said. I'm definitely not responsible for anything she's done. Understood. Thank you for your time, Mr. Harris. The line went dead. I sat there at my desk, staring at my phone. Medical Board investigation. That wasn't a slap on the wrist. That was potentially career-ending. The kind of thing that meant malpractice, misconduct, maybe worse. I told myself I didn't care. She'd made her choices. Whatever consequences she was facing now, she'd earned them herself. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't Google her name that night. There was nothing. No news articles, no press releases, nothing. Which made sense. These investigations took time before becoming public, if they ever became public at all. Riley found me on the couch with my laptop. "What are you looking up?" she asked. I told her about the call. "Do you think it's serious?" "The medical board doesn't investigate unless it's serious," I said. "But I don't know what she did. Could be anything." "Are you worried about her?" "No," I said, and meant it. "Just curious, I guess. It's weird hearing her name after all this time." Riley sat beside me. "You don't owe her anything. Not even your curiosity." "I know." She was right. I closed the laptop and didn't think about it again. 3 months passed. Work kept me busy. We landed a major infrastructure project, and I was managing a team of 8 engineers. Riley's design business was expanding. We put an offer on a house in Oakland, 3 bedrooms with a backyard, and started talking seriously about timelines for kids. Then Gabriel called. "Have you heard about Angelica?" he asked without preamble. My chest tightened. "No." "What?" "She got fired from her residency. Something about a patient death and falsifying records to cover up a mistake. The medical board suspended her license pending a full investigation. It's bad, Drew. Like, potentially Criminal bad. I sat down slowly. Patient death. Falsified records. Jesus. Is she okay? I asked, then immediately felt stupid for asking. I don't know. I heard she moved back in with her parents. And that doctor she left you for? Nicholas? Won't return her calls. Apparently, he wants nothing to do with the scandal. Of course he doesn't. I just thought you should know, Gabriel said. I know you guys aren't together anymore, but still, it's pretty dramatic. After I hung up, I sat there staring at nothing. A patient died, and instead of owning the mistake, she'd lied about it, covered it up. That was Angelica. When things went wrong, she didn't take responsibility. She just looked for someone else to blame or some way to hide it. Riley came home and found me on the couch. What's wrong? She asked. I told her. She was quiet for a moment. Then, do you want to reach out? No, I said immediately. She's not my responsibility anymore. She made that very clear. Okay, Riley said gently. Just checking. That night, I dreamed about the day I met Angelica. We were 22, at a campus party neither of us really wanted to be at. She'd been talking about med school even then, eyes bright with ambition, and she'd made me believe we'd build something together. A partnership. A future. I woke up feeling unsettled in a way I couldn't quite name. 3 years after the graduation day divorce, I was home alone on a Saturday afternoon. Riley had driven to her sister's place in Sacramento for the weekend. Some kind of family thing I'd been invited to, but begged off because I had a project deadline looming. I was reading through engineering specs when the doorbell rang. I opened the door and froze. Angelica stood on my doorstep. She looked like a ghost of the woman I'd married, thin to the point of gaunt, her face pale and drawn. She wore jeans and a wrinkled sweatshirt that hung off her frame. Her hair, which she'd always kept meticulously styled, hung limp and unwashed around her shoulders. "Drew," she whispered, "I need your help." I stared at her for a long moment. My first instinct was anger, sharp and immediate. My second was something closer to shock. "You need to leave," I said. "Please. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." Against every bit of common sense I possessed, I stepped back and let her in. We stood in the living room. I didn't offer her a seat. "What do you want, Angelica?" The words came tumbling out in a rush. "I'm broke, Drew. The medical board revoked my license 6 months ago. I can't work as a doctor. I have $180,000 in student loans that are in default. My parents cut me off last month because I've been living with them for over a year and they're tired of supporting me. I've been applying for any job I can find, but without my license, I'm just someone with a useless degree and no work history. I'm drowning. And you came here because you're the only person who ever really gave a damn about me." Tears started streaming down her face. "I know I don't deserve your help. I know that. But I don't have anyone else. I need money. Just enough to get on my feet. A few thousand to cover rent and—" "No." She blinked. "What?" "No. You don't get to show up here after 3 years and ask me for money. After what you did. Drew, please. You divorced me on your graduation day," I said, my voice hard. "You had me served in a parking lot like I was some stranger. You told me I wasn't your equal. You screwed your supervisor and then acted like I was the problem for being upset about it. And now that everything's fallen apart, you come here? To me? I know I was terrible to you," she sobbed. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm begging you. I'm about to be evicted. I have nothing. No career, no future, no—" "You had a future," I cut her off. "I gave you that future. I worked myself to the bone to give you that future. And you threw it away. Not just the marriage. You threw away your entire career because you were too arrogant to double-check your work, too proud to admit a mistake before someone died because of it." Her face went white. "How did you—" "Gabriel told me. Patient death, falsified records, suspended license, What did you think would happen? That you could cut corners and no one would notice? It was an accident, she whispered. I was so tired. I'd been working 30-hour shifts. I made a dosage error and then I panicked. And instead of owning it, you lied. Just like you lied to me about Nicholas. Just like you lied to yourself about what kind of person you really are. Please, Drew, I made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But I'm trying to rebuild. You need to leave, I said flatly. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not your safety net. You made it very clear 3 years ago that you didn't need me, so figure it out yourself. I have nowhere to go. That's not my problem. I walked to the door and opened it. Goodbye, Angelica. She stood there for a moment, disbelief and desperation warring on her face. Then she turned and walked out. I closed the door and locked it, my heart pounding. My hands were shaking. I called Riley immediately. She came here, I said when she answered. Who? Angelica. She's broke, lost her medical license, wanted money. What did you tell her? I told her no. I told her to leave. Good, Riley said firmly. You don't owe her anything, Drew, not one damn thing. She was right. I knew she was right. So why did I feel so hollow? 2 days later, the doorbell rang again. I was in the kitchen when I heard it. My stomach tightened. I already knew who it was. I opened the door, but didn't step back this time. Angelica stood there, same beat-up clothes, same hollow eyes. I'm not changing my mind, I said through the cracked door. I'm not asking you to give me money, she said quickly. I just need you to listen, please. Something in her voice made me pause. She didn't sound desperate. She sounded defeated, broken. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. You have 2 minutes. I lost everything because I was stupid and arrogant, she said. The words came out flat, rehearsed, like she'd practiced them in front of a mirror. I thought becoming a doctor would make me special. Better than everyone else. Better than you. And I destroyed the one person who actually loved me because of it. If you're looking for absolution, I'm not. She shook her head. I know what I did. I know I deserve everything that happened. But Drew, I need you to understand something. She took a shaky breath. Nicholas didn't love me. My parents don't respect me. The career I sacrificed everything for is gone. And the one person who actually saw me as a partner, who supported me when I had nothing to offer in return, I threw him away like garbage. I don't want your money. I don't want your help. I just needed to tell you that I know. I know what I had. And I know what I lost. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw someone I didn't recognize anymore. The confident woman who'd handed me divorce papers was gone. In her place was someone who'd had every delusion stripped away and found nothing underneath. Do you remember what you said to me at your graduation? I asked quietly. She flinched. You said I wasn't your equal, that you needed someone who challenged you intellectually, someone at your level. Her eyes dropped to the ground. You wanted to know what being at the top felt like, I continued. How's the view from rock bottom, Angelica? I deserve that, she whispered. Yeah, you do. I paused, watching her shoulders shake. You want to know what the real tragedy is? I would have been there for you. If you'd called me when things started going bad, if you'd needed someone to talk to during your residency, if you'd just treated me like a human being instead of an inconvenience, I probably would have answered. Not because I still loved you, but because I'm not like you. I don't kick people when they're down. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. But you burned that bridge. You burned it, doused it in gasoline, and danced on the ashes. So no, Angelica. I'm not going to be there for you now. I'm not going to rescue you. You're on your own, just like you wanted. She nodded slowly. I understand. Good. Don't come back here again. She turned and walked to a beat-up Honda Civic parked at the curb. Probably borrowed or bought for cheap after she'd lost everything else. I watched her get in, watched her sit there for a moment with her hands on the steering wheel. Then she drove away. I stood there on my doorstep and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, no anger, just a strange, empty peace. Riley came home an hour later and found me sitting on the couch. She came back, she guessed. Yeah. What did she want this time? Closure, I think. Or maybe just to apologize. It doesn't matter. Riley sat beside me and took my hand. Are you okay? I am, I said, and realized it was true. She's not my problem anymore. She never will be again. 3 weeks passed quietly. 3 weeks after Angelica drove away in that beat-up Honda, I came home from work to find a letter waiting in the mailbox. Not from Angelica, from Thomas Sanders, her attorney. I opened it standing in the kitchen, read it once, then read it again. Dear Mr. Harris, this letter serves as notification that Dr. Angelica Morgan is filing for bankruptcy under Chapter 7. As part of this process, she is unable to continue the remaining payment obligations from your divorce settlement. The bankruptcy trustee has determined that the reimbursement payments are dischargeable debt. We regret any inconvenience. I handed it to Riley when she came in from the other room. She's declaring bankruptcy, I said, which means I'm never getting that last $15,000. Riley read it, her brow furrowing. Can she do that? Apparently. I sat back against the counter. Yeah, she can. Are you okay with this? I thought about it. Really thought about it. And you know what? I was. I'm really okay with this, I said. I got $30,000 from her. That paid off most of my loans. And more importantly, she spent 2.5 years paying me, acknowledging what she owed. That's enough. Riley watched my face carefully. You're sure? I'm sure. I took the letter from her hands and looked at it one more time. She has nothing left, Riley. No career, no money, no future. The woman who told me I wasn't good enough for her is working retail now. I saw her car when she came here. It was practically falling apart. Meanwhile, I have a great job, an amazing girlfriend, and a life I actually want to live. She didn't just lose everything. She lost everything, and I didn't. That's justice enough. Riley kissed me then, soft and sweet. Have I mentioned lately that I love you? Not in the last hour, I said. She laughed. Well, I do. That evening, I threw the bankruptcy notice in the trash and didn't think about it again. Later, we sat on the couch with takeout containers spread across the coffee table. Thai food from the place down the street that we'd been going to for almost 3 years now. The smell of basil and lemongrass filled the apartment. I've been thinking, Riley said, twirling noodles around her fork, about what we talked about last month, the house thing. Yeah? I think we should do it. Start looking, I mean. My lease is up in 4 months anyway, and this place is getting kind of cramped with both our offices. She gestured at the second bedroom we'd converted into a shared workspace, my engineering books fighting for shelf space with her design portfolios. You sure? I asked. That's a big step. We've been together almost 3 years, Drew. We've already done the hard part, figuring out if we actually work together. We do. So why wait? She was right. We did work. In a way I hadn't even known was possible back when I was married to Angelica. No drama, no keeping score, just 2 people building something together because they wanted to, not because one owed the other. Okay, I said, let's do it. Start looking at houses. Riley's face lit up. Really? Really? And you know what else? Maybe we start talking seriously about the other thing too. Kids. Not right away, but soon. Figure out the timeline. She set down her fork and turned to face me fully. You mean that? I mean it. I'm 35, Riley. You're 32. If we're going to do this, build a family, the whole thing, I don't want to wait forever. I spent too many years already putting my life on hold for someone else's dreams. I'm done waiting. She kissed me again, longer this time. When she pulled back, her eyes were bright. "I love you," she said. "God, I really love you." "I know," I said. "I love you too." We finished dinner talking about neighborhoods and school districts and how many bedrooms we'd need. Normal things, future things, things that had nothing to do with the past that used to define me. And somewhere out there, Angelica was probably sitting in her parents' house, or maybe a cheap apartment she could barely afford, staring at her own bankruptcy papers and wondering how it all went so wrong. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I'd moved on. 2 years after the bankruptcy notice, I'm standing in my backyard on a Sunday afternoon, watching Riley laugh with her sister while they string paper lanterns between the fence posts. The late summer sun catches in Riley's hair, and she's gesturing with her hands the way she always does when she's telling a story, probably recounting some disaster from one of her recent client meetings. Simple moments like this, they're everything now. Riley and I got married 6 months ago. Small ceremony, just family and close friends at a little venue near the coast. No drama, no expensive spectacle meant to impress people we barely knew. Just honest vows exchanged between two people who actually meant them. Everything my first wedding wasn't. Joyful, real, built on something solid. I remember standing in my college apartment with Angelica, planning that first wedding, convinced we were building a future together. Funny how wrong you can be about someone. "Burgers are almost ready," Gabriel Wright calls from the grill, waving a spatula. "Heard," I call back. My life is simple now. I made senior project manager last year, the position I'd turned down all those years ago because Angelica needed to stay near her medical school. Riley's design business is thriving. She just landed a contract with a tech startup that's going to keep her busy for the next 6 months. And she's excited about it in a way that makes me excited just watching her. We talk about buying a house maybe next spring. Maybe starting a family in the next year or two. Real plans. Plans we're making together. As equals. Everything is exactly what I wanted it to be. I heard through the grapevine. Gabriel, actually, who still keeps tabs on old college connections, that Angelica finally moved out of California about 8 months ago. Someone mentioned she's working as a medical secretary in Nevada somewhere, trying to get certified as a physician assistant. It's a fraction of what she trained for, sure, but it's the only healthcare career path still available to someone with a revoked medical license. Her loans are still in default. Her parents still won't help her. Gabriel said Gerald and Diane cut her off completely after that year of supporting her went nowhere. And Nicholas? He's married now. Another doctor, naturally. Gabriel told me Nicholas doesn't even remember Angelica's name when people bring her up at hospital functions. Do I feel bad for her? Sometimes, in those abstract moments when you hear about anyone's life falling apart. The same way you might feel bad reading about a stranger's misfortune in the news. But mostly, I don't think about her at all. She wanted to be with someone at her level, someone who challenged her intellectually, someone equal to her brilliance. Instead, she ended up alone, broke, and working a job she's overqualified for, but underachieving in. And me? I ended up with everything I actually wanted. Riley catches my eye from across the yard and smiles, and I walk over, wrapping my arms around her from behind. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, leaning back against me. "How lucky I am," I say. And I mean it. Every word. Angelica took 3 years of my life, yeah. But she also taught me exactly what I deserved. And it wasn't her. She did me a favor when she handed me those divorce papers in that parking lot, even if neither of us knew it at the time. She wanted to throw me away when she didn't need me anymore. Instead, she threw away the only person who would have caught her when she fell. I look around at the life I built. The backyard we're renting but planning to replace with our own, Riley in my arms, Gabriel flipping burgers and arguing with Riley's sister about proper grilling technique, friends laughing over drinks at the patio table. This is the ultimate justice, right here. Not revenge, just consequences. And sometimes, consequences are the sweetest justice of all.